Hello, fellow Gites. Now, if you're thinking of buying in France but not moving here, then this is the episode for you. I talked to Tom from Toumassou, a lovely 4-bedroom Gîte just outside Saint-Cyprien in the Dordogne. He and his wife Emilie are both French teachers living and working in the UK. So we talk about the challenges of renting this place out when they're actually living abroad. So how do they deal with becoming part of the community when they don't live here full time, renovating, and really importantly, having contact with their guests. There's also a discussion about when a heated pool is not hot enough. So enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Gîte Podcast. Brought to you by Gîte Guru.
Thank you very much, Tom, for having me here today for this episode of the Gîte Podcast, which is brought to you from Toumassou, which is in the Dordogne. And you were clients of ours, I believe, 2 years ago. This is your second season, isn't it?
Second full season, yeah.
And what's really interesting about you is that this is not your home, unlike all of the other people I've spoken to so far. You actually live in the UK, don't you? So why did you buy a house in France?
So perhaps unlike other people, we already have a connection to France. So my wife, Emilie, is half French. We're both French teachers back in the UK. So French is part of our life. And Emilie's dad actually lives just a couple of 100 meters up the hill in this very village. So actually, we've been coming here for years. For us, it wasn't a complete plunge into the unknown. We already own a home in England, which is where we live and work, and our children go to school. It's our summer holiday destination to visit. Being French teachers, being in France is kind of very much part of who we are. And in truth, I would never have even thought of buying a second home in the UK, but the opportunity to come here and maybe own our own place here was what really appealed to us.
I would imagine that it's actually quite difficult to manage a property in another country. And yeah, I'm really interested to know what that's actually like. So going back, you bought this place during COVID?
That's correct. We bought it, we completed in the summer of 2021.
Right.
So we were going through the process of looking at places that we might want to buy in this very local area, because we want to be in or around the village of Marnac, where we are. And then we actually completed on this place in July of 2021.
What was the place like when you bought it?
Very different to what it is now. It had been empty for 2 years because the former owners sadly were very ill and they had both passed away by the time the house was going to go on the market. And I suspect before that, for probably at least 5, maybe 6 years, I think the elderly couple that lived here evidently will have struggled a great deal with the garden. When we first arrived, we were struggling to even reach the house, given the amount of vegetation. The house was completely swamped in vegetation, trees. And in fact, the former owners had also built the house with the intention of having it in very much a forest setting. So actually, it was really very much in the middle of a forest.
I can't imagine that, though, because the first time we came here, you had cleared the land of a lot of trees and also a lot of bamboo that had been quite prolifically growing throughout the garden. So I can't really imagine. I've seen the photos of what it was like when you bought it, but seeing it now, it's completely different. It's much more kind of open vista, open garden than it was originally.
That first summer, the major focus was on clearing the site, removing most of the forest. And in doing so, we've actually revealed what I would probably say is our USP, really, the panoramic views that we now have across the valley, which before were entirely hidden. And in fact, many locals just down the hill never had any idea that there was a house here.
How strange, because you have got a spectacular view reaching for miles and miles and miles. There's a beautiful chateau over there in the valley, and I can't imagine that you'd want to block this view with trees. It's very strange.
It is strange. I think they really wanted that private oasis.
And when did they build it then?
This was built in the mid-1990s.
Okay, so it's not too old.
No, it's
but
not.
As well as not really maintaining the garden, was it obvious whether they continued to maintain the house in the last 5 years that they were living here, or was actually the house in pretty good nick?
I think structurally, most of the house is and was sound, but there were definitely elements of the house which have been neglected for a number of years. So since we bought it, we have, besides completely transforming the outdoors, we've had to do an awful lot of work inside as well.
Yeah. And you said the first summer you spent clearing all the land. How long were you actually here? How long did that take you?
So we were here for around about 6 or 7 weeks.
6 or 7 weeks is not normal. So what do you both do as a job?
We're both teachers of French. So we used our summer holidays and we just got cracking.
When you came up with the plan to buy a place in France, was that part of the reasoning that actually you would be able to spend quite a lot of time here during the year, not only with your family on holiday, but also to look after the place and make improvements when needed and to work on the land?
Absolutely, yeah. A home from home.
Yeah. Because I think if you just had 5 weeks a year holiday like most people and you spent 3 of them here, you wouldn't even begin to be able to tackle the ongoing maintenance and the garden and everything. So your father-in-law lives in this village. He was on the lookout for places coming on the market, and he tipped you the wink, didn't he, when he heard this one was coming?
We knew that there was a house here. We'd never actually met the owners because I think their ill health meant that they weren't very active in the community. Yep. And so having looked at other properties nearby, we suspected that at some stage this might become available. It was a stroke of luck that an agent who'd been given the job of marketing the property was here taking some photos. And my father-in-law bumped into him.
Oh, how funny.
More or less said, look no further.
I'll buy it.
We found a buyer. So we bought it completely blind.
You hadn't been here when you signed on the dotted line.
But the first time we walked down the drive, we'd already completed. So we arrived.
As the owners of a property that you'd never viewed.
Possibly in hindsight, we naively thought that it would be a quick turnaround. It very much was not. But we don't regret doing it. I wouldn't possibly take on quite such an intense project again. But yeah, it was a plunge. The location is amazing. 5 minutes walk from my father-in-law. We're in the heart of where we wanted to be. And I think we kind of thought, well, we'll just go for it.
And how long did it then take you to get the house ready to accept paying guests? So you bought in 21, you hit the ground running with the outside and then started tackling the inside. And then you opened in?
I think we had 3 rentals at the end of the summer, 2023.
Yeah, okay.
So we just managed to catch a few rentals to begin the process in 2020.
So the summer holidays you spent mostly here getting it ready. What about Christmas and Easter?
Yeah, so we were here really every school holiday, every half term, either as a family. What I tended to do in February, I tended to recruit an army of friends to bring with me.
Brilliant.
Come out and all get to work on the chainsaws, all the different garden machinery to keep the project moving. And we're very lucky that my father-in-law, who lives just up the hill, very, very handy. He worked probably full-time on the house for 2 years, doing all manner of things, re-landscaping.
So this really isn't a project that anyone with a normal job without a father-in-law in the village would have been able to do.
I don't think so. No.
But that is all about the choice of the property that you bought. You could have bought something that was ready to go. Yeah. And then you could have opened 2 years earlier or so.
Yeah.
But for you, it was all about the location, being close to your father-in-law, and it suited your budget, and you had a shared vision with your father-in-law about what you could do with this place.
That's right. That's absolutely.
How is it living in the UK and managing this place?
I think probably over the winter, so between October and April, it's about just keeping on top of things, making sure that bills are paid if we have workmen coming in to do bits and pieces. By the time the Easter holidays come around, we're normally then all out here working very, very hard to make sure that we're ready for the season. It is a lot of work, a lot of time often spent on a phone, WhatsApping, emailing, but I feel now in year 3, we're getting better at it, quicker at it. I've now got the team.
That must be crucial to how you actually manage from abroad. You've got to have a team who you can rely on and who themselves feel the responsibility for the place that owners who live on site would feel. So who have you got in your team? You've got your father-in-law who also then has a network of builders and tradesmen who can come and help.
To a certain extent, but I think he actually now is happier to leave us to it. But he's always there as backup. So it's time for him now to put his feet up a little bit.
And enjoy you being neighbours.
Yeah, that's right.
And who else have you got in your team?
So I have a gentleman who runs his own property management business. He is here on the ground when we have people staying in the house. So he's here to greet them, to see them when they leave, do a check of the property, to answer any questions that they may have. He also manages the cleaning of the property as well.
So he has a team who he oversees to come in and clean the place, do all the laundry, garden, pool, basically everything?
Garden, pool, yeah. We're gradually looking at trying to make it more simple. So the more we can give to him to oversee, makes communication much easier that way.
Yep.
At the moment, though, we do have the swimming pool company that manage the pool. We're gradually giving the gardening now to Ralph, the gentleman that looks after our guests. So I think probably the secret to making it more cost effective, more manageable, more straightforward is to have one person overseeing multiple aspects of looking after the property.
Basically, your representative here and oversees the weekly clean and the general maintenance when you're not around. And then you do everything else. So the communication with guests, the marketing you do yourselves, all the administration, tax returns, bookkeeping. And how much time do you think that takes you per week? Or is it very different in the winter and during the season?
I think it's probably quite steady. There's always emails to respond to, bills to pay, money to move around to make sure that we're doing things correctly and legally. Difficult to say how many hours, but perhaps in terms of administration, probably 3 or 4 hours a week.
I suppose then you've been extremely lucky to find Ralph, somebody who you do trust and get on with so well. How did you find him?
He was recommended to us by a friend of my father-in-law locally in the village. And at that point, we were looking at using an agent, a local holiday property agent. But for whatever reason, they weren't keen to take this place on. I think they perhaps saw it at a time when it was not ready and felt that it wasn't for them.
So Ralph is a property manager who is hired by you, and you do all the communication, marketing, bookkeeping and everything. He does the on-site work. And an agent would then take the communication with the guests and the marketing off your hands as well. They basically fill the place for you and manage it throughout the season. So it's a much bigger task that would also probably cost much more money. The commission they would charge would be much higher than what you end up paying Ralph.
Yes, it would. And I think the other issue with it is that having control over my bookings, I can make a real effort to try and get bookings early in the season and also later on in the season, whereas I think an agent tends to obviously aim to fill the peak weeks, which is when it's much easier to get guests. I think by having that control myself, although it was daunting at the beginning when I didn't know much about doing this, I now feel like I have a really good idea about how to market, how to communicate, pricing. And obviously now I do have this team on the ground who are here to maintain the property while we are not here. So I'm glad I did it this way, even though it may well have been easier at the beginning to hand over to an agent.
Every Gîte owner's challenge is to fill the shoulder season. So summer is pretty easy, but it's the April, May, September, October periods, which is quite a challenge, but also when you're going to make more of your profits. And certainly one or two of the agencies I've spoken to in the past have said, you're filling your summer months yourselves, so therefore you're of no interest to us. We can't help you with April, May, September, October. That's not what we do. We just make sure you're full for the summer. Not all agencies will be like that, but I would have to ask myself, what is their added value? You know, if you're living abroad, they might well have added value, but you've taken on a much more time-consuming way of doing it, but that will cost you less money.
Obviously, having employed Gîte Gurus, that will have saved us, I'm sure, years of having to get things wrong before then figuring out the right path.
Yeah, especially with the marketing, we really looked at how we could reach your target groups.
Absolutely. So I think for us, that was a way to getting to this point much quicker. I'm fairly sure now we'd be making mistake after mistake still, trying to figure out the best ways of doing things rather than going with an agent. We've paid for professional advice, but we've chosen to do it ourselves. I think I don't regret that now. So when we bought the property, that was quite a romantic kind of idea at the beginning. Eventually we decided that what we needed from it, as well as a place for us to come on holiday and to enjoy and be near my father-in-law. But we did also want somewhere that would hopefully become financially sustainable, pay for itself, and leave rental income at the end of the year, a surplus that we could then reinvest into the property. And so far, we are more or less achieving that.
So at the end of last season, you actually had a surplus that you were able to put back into a new bathroom, didn't you?
In truth, I think we were very surprised by how quickly and seemingly easily we were able to get bookings. So last year, we were fully booked from the 23rd or 24th of April. So we got a week at the end of April, which I think is quite unusual around here. And we were full all the way through till the second week of September.
Fantastic.
And we blocked out the weeks for us. We didn't come out at half term. Again, we wanted to try and get as many bookings as we could, generate reviews, obviously generate that income. to reinvest. And that's what we did. So we took 2 weeks for ourselves in the summer.
And is that a difficult decision then? Because by you coming here, you're not earning any money from the place. But then part of the objective of having this place was to use it yourself.
I think that's probably where my wife and I are maybe slightly different. I perhaps am always aware of the financial side of it because I'm the one that manages all of that. My wife works longer hours than me in the UK, so it was always the agreement that I would oversee the managing the rental of the property. I know that she would love to be here for lots more of our big summer holiday. I explained early on that because of the numbers, felt certainly for the first few years, taking it for 2 weeks in the summer gives us that summer holiday that we want, but it also allows the property to then earn and generate that income for us.
But it's really impressive occupancy figures for your first year. To describe the property a bit, it is so it was built in the 1990s, but in a typical style of the Périgord that has got a lot of character to it. It is situated with this incredible view. This is really what people want when they come to the Dordogne. These undulating hills with castles dotted around, and it's really peaceful. It's very close to some good towns like Saint-Cyprien, really good markets. Sunday market there is one of the best in the regions, isn't it? You've got one of the best bakeries not far away.
Luco's Bakery.
Every time we've come here, we have enjoyed their pastries. It has a swimming pool, again with the view, and a really big open plan upstairs, open plan living room, dining area and kitchen. And the kitchen then goes out onto a terrace which overlooks the pool and the view. And it's got 4 bedrooms. I think you have priced it very fairly. You haven't gone for top dollar. That's one of the reasons why you had so many bookings last year. Have you put your pricing up in year 2?
We did put our prices up this year, not a huge amount.
But to cover inflation?
Largely in line with inflation and what we felt was a fair price. Our aim at the beginning was to generate those bookings, get experience of rental, learn about the process, generate reviews.
Occupancy like for this year compared to last year?
Exactly the same. So, yeah, from our first booking this year, we didn't get an April booking, but I think that was perhaps very unusual last year. But we have been booked up fully from the 1st of May all the way through this time to the 20th of September.
Wow.
With only 3 days with the house unoccupied.
A whole range of different nationalities coming? Or mainly British?
Interestingly, this year, perhaps a little bit different to last year. We've had 12 bookings this year. Nearly half of them are English. So we've got 5 English bookings. We've got a couple of Dutch and a couple of German. And then the remaining 3 are Canadian, Belgian, and French. So actually only 1 French booking, which is a bit different to last year. I believe we had 3 French bookings from last year.
And so when you look at the unique selling points, when you tell guests about this place, what is it that you really touch on to try and convince them that this is the place that they should be renting?
I think there are probably 3 aspects to that. Number 1, as you've mentioned already, Rupert, the view here is spectacular. The second thing, which I think may appeal to some people that book it, is the story of how, as a family, we have a connection to the village already. We took the plunge. We bought this property just after COVID. We bought it blind. We've put a huge amount of our money and time and energy into it.
So you're really, by telling your story of the house, you're giving it real colour so that the guests staying here can actually understand a bit more about who you are and why you bought it and why this area is so important to you.
And I think the final thing is the location. We are within 10 minutes of Saint-Cyprien with the famous market there. We're 20 minutes from Sala. We're just a few minutes down to the river.
Brilliant.
And there are numerous beaches within a 10 or 15-minute drive. We are surrounded by castles, Château de Milande, Château de Castelnau.
Lots of tourist activities on your doorstep.
Absolutely. And yet we are in this incredibly quiet, tranquil spot looking over the valley.
And you've mentioned a couple of times about the community here. Have you been able to become a part of the community when you're not actually living here full time?
I think without the connection of my father-in-law, that might be tricky. Perhaps it's no surprise, given my profession as a French teacher, the opportunity to speak French here and to really immerse not just myself, but my children here as well, is something that we always wanted and that we will continue to enjoy and benefit from.
And you mentioned you wanted to really get going with having guests coming to stay so that you could get reviews. What was it like the first time you had guests arriving? You had been here the week before they arrived. making sure the place
We'd left on the morning.
You left that morning?
Yeah, we'd left.
And how was it? Were you terrified or excited or?
Yeah, I remember it well. We were driving from here all the way down to the Côte d'Azur to visit friends. And I remember looking at the clock during the day as we were in the car thinking, oh, okay, now the first guests are arriving. So we were really on edge because after 2 years of blood, sweat and tears, finally we were taking that big step.
Earning some money.
And as the clock went past 4 o'clock, I was picturing our first guests arriving and also at the same time very much hoping that my phone wouldn't ring. But at 4:30, my phone did ring.
Oh.
We had an interesting dilemma in relation to our driveway.
Just to explain, you've got quite a long private drive, don't you? And at the end of that, when you reach the house, you can, if you were so minded, take a very sharp left and kind of go round back up to the drive another way. And that isn't necessarily what you would suggest that everyone should try, because it's gravel, it's on quite a slope, and it's quite a sharp turn all in one. Right. So it's quite challenging, isn't it? So the car got stuck.
The car got stuck.
Not far away from the edge of the building.
No, that's right. Pointing down towards the building. So in a desperate attempt to avoid the car heading down into our walls, Ralph immediately and very impressively was here to come and assess. And he managed to track down a local farmer who then came along and helped to tow their car back up the hill. So it was a very exciting start, one that we were keen not to repeat. So again, our learning journey began immediately.
This is only, I think, the 7th podcast I've recorded, but you are the second person to talk about having to get a farmer with a tractor out to pull something out. The last time it was somebody's removal van when it arrived, managed to get stuck in a ditch on their properties. Did the week of those guests, did it go better, or did you get called lots more during that week?
It was a very busy first day. So we had the issue with the car, and then I think it was about 1 hour later that the tenants realised that the fridge had stopped working.
And it had been working when you left in the morning?
It had been working, and Ralph had to also quickly resolve the issue with the fridge. It needed us to buy a new fridge. So he went and collected a new fridge, had it all put in. So I think it was reassuring to know that when stuff goes wrong, even though we're not here, we did have that person that very early on we knew was reliable, quick and respectful. And indeed, that first rental, the tenants had an amazing time, left a lovely review for us, praised our proactive nature.
Yeah, exactly. You were proactive. You solved everything. Them driving the car, down the slope was in fact their fault, but you helped solve that problem. And you reacted quickly to the fridge, which is all anyone can really ask. Do you feel the enjoyment that the guests have here, or are you just always waiting for the phone to ring with a problem that needs to be solved? Because for us, we can hear the kids in the pool because we live on site. We get to see people enjoying themselves when they're outside eating, and it's very obvious to us. Is it obvious enough to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In truth, I feel very distant from the experience of the renters. I rely on any feedback they can give me. And we always ask for that informal feedback as well as they're filling out the review on the platforms. The majority of them we know have been very happy with their stay. Yeah. As you mentioned, the reality for us is that we are always waiting for that phone to ring. And so every time I get a message from Ralph, my heart does skip a beat. Yeah, the reality for me living in the UK, not being here to manage it myself, to a certain extent, the less I hear, the better. But that's it. We do have a visitors book. So I'm always keen to see what visitors have written.
That slight anxiety about when the phone rings is exactly the same. We have it when the doorbell goes and you think, are they coming to ask for a restaurant recommendation, which is wonderful, or are they coming to say that the dishwasher's blown up? And then we have to, like Ralph did, finding a new fridge, we have to jump into action and spend lots of money and solve the problem.
I would back anyone to come out here and want to buy a place and rent it out. I definitely think, particularly in this area, it's a hugely viable option financially and personally as well. Yeah. But having that person on the ground is an absolute must. The trust needs to be there because you are entrusting them with overseeing your pride and joy or your home, your second home.
And your investment.
your investment. Yeah. So it's a huge responsibility. It takes time.
So you say that it's viable to have a place here. From the 12 weeks that you took last year, you were able to pay all of the running costs and have some left over. So that's really good. But what are your utilities like?
Utility bills during the rental season, they do rise dramatically. It's perhaps no surprise that the biggest expense for us is the swimming pool, the cost of heating it, the cost of maintaining it. But obviously without that pool,
you wouldn't get the bookings, and you wouldn't be able to ask the rate that you do ask without a pool.
That's right.
The pool was there when you bought the place.
So when we bought the place, the place had an above ground pool built within a vast timber structure, which, although we perhaps naively thought it was salvageable, very quickly it was obvious that that was not safe and that it could not be done up.
So then you made the decision to put an in-ground pool in that's heated as well. So that must have been a massive outlay.
Yeah, it was a huge outlay and not one that we banked on.
But the right decision, perhaps the only decision,
yeah.
Wasn't it?
The concept of a heated pool, you imagine as being a warm pool, one that you get into and it's 27, 28 degrees. Yeah. The reality is, if we switch our pool heating on in the middle of April, when outside temperatures might be as low as 5 degrees at night, we can turn the heating on all we like, but that large body of water is not going to warm to a temperature that someone's going to jump into and suddenly appreciate.
But if you have some hot weather in April, then it will get up to a good temperature, maybe not 27, 28. But the difference being it would only be 18 degrees if you didn't heat it, and maybe now it's 24. I'm absolutely convinced that by having a heated pool, you will help fill your shoulder season. Our old pool wasn't heated, and we had it for, I think, 5 or 6 years, and we definitely lost bookings. We had people saying, we want to come in October. Is the pool heated? And we'd say no, and they'd say, forget it, we're not coming. So I do think that is perhaps one of your unique selling points, is that you do have a heated pool, and yet it's not a really expensive place to rent. It's for people with a normal budget.
Absolutely.
Especially with 4 bedrooms, you can get 2 families in here who can share the costs. And then having a heated pool is such a bonus.
Yeah, that was always the aim, was to prepare the property and market it as one that's viable for 2 small families, 2 families of 4. The majority of our bookings are multiple families, perhaps 2 or 3 couples with a child or 2 between them. It does offer that flexibility.
So in your experience over 2 seasons, is it something that you still really enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely it is. There's always that clash between this being our home and letting strangers who I never meet.
Yeah, you never meet them. It's so funny.
Never meet them. No, I've never met any of our guests. Yeah. I've spoken to them. It is strange. And again, this is perhaps where my wife and I come at it from slightly different angles. I'm the one that's managing a rental property, whereas Emilie, when she's here, she sees this as her home. There's definitely finding that balance between making it our home when we're here, but then also not making it so homely that renting it out creates great anxiety.
Actually, respect is something that's come up a couple of times in our podcast, and I wonder, again, whether it's something that's difficult to gauge when you're not here, whether somebody's being disrespectful or not. Susie, one of our other podcasters, was saying it's so important that there is trust and respect between the owner and the guest. That's a two-way thing. But with the fact you've never met them, I wonder whether it's difficult to gauge whether guests have really enjoyed the place and a couple of wine glasses have got smashed and a few things moved, or whether they've really treated the place quite badly, which happens as well, as unfortunately we know.
Yeah, it's a really interesting conundrum.
Even with it being a conundrum and you having this distance and having the anxiety of having to manage a place from abroad, you still think it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. We love this place, and with that, therefore, comes the inevitable anxiety of renting it to strangers.
Which we have as well.
But we knew from the get-go that this is only viable for us if we earn a rental income from it to pay for itself.
And what kind of top tips would you have for people who are thinking of buying a second home and renting it out in France? Is it something that you would say approach with trepidation or go for it?
I think I would say go for it. The things that have made it a success for us, we always say how you and Frank and Gîte Guru put us on the map. because without you, I think we'd have been doing this blind. And it could easily have gone very, very wrong. And we might have changed our mind after 3 or 4 bookings. Yeah. Because of that preparation, the time that you put in to getting to know our property, giving us the right advice, I mean, that was a huge part of us getting it right quickly. Yeah. My first tip is make sure you get really good advice. And I think my second tip, I love France to bits. I always have done. And it's a country where if you don't give it a go, if you don't try to speak French, if you don't put yourself out there, be afraid to make mistakes, you will find it very hard to integrate into your local community.
I think especially around here, the French people here are so used to having foreigners around, whether it's second homeowners or people living here or tourists, and they're totally fine with us trying to speak French, maybe not as well as you. But
I don't think it's impossible for someone with no French who wants to make an investment to buy a property out here. And if you've got the eyes and ears on the ground of someone to do that for you, it could still be a really viable investment. Yeah. If you want to have any attachment to it, and if you want the locals to embrace your project, you need to build those links. And as I said, you don't need to be fluent in that language to do it. You just need to give it a go.
And is your third top tip to buy a place that doesn't need a lot of maintenance or renovation and work in the garden? So buy a place that hasn't got bamboo in it? Or have you actually enjoyed all of that? Are you very proud when you sit here of seeing what you've achieved?
We're incredibly proud of it. It did at times push us to the brink financially and emotionally, but we ploughed on. And now we are reaping the rewards of that. Probably the hardest thing I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
In terms of over a sustained period of time, dealing with the anxiety, at times feeling overwhelmed with the amount of work that we took on. But then again, we did buy a property that we didn't come and see.
Maybe that's the top tip. Actually go and view the property before you buy it.
I definitely think go and view before you buy it.
Even during COVID.
I don't think it would have changed our mind. I still think we'd have taken the plunge. So yeah, we're immensely proud of it. So in terms of what would I advise people, there are people much more practical than me. If you're very practical and you have the time and the money to invest in it, go for it, go and do it. If you're not so sure that you still want to enjoy owning a rental property in France, I'd say go for it too.
Well, hats off to you two. Okay, you do have slightly more time off per year than the rest of working people. It's not a bad life, is it? So it has been a massive project, but you've got to the stage now where hopefully you can enjoy the space yourselves and enjoy the fact that so many other people are having a fantastic time here. You have created a little piece of heaven.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Welcome to the Gîte Podcast. Brought to you by Gîte Guru.
Well, I think we can take from what Tom told us that running a gîte when you live abroad, even when you have your father-in-law living in the same village, is complicated. It's not to say that you can't make a success of it or a go of it, but there are 4 things which are really quite important. The first is you need a team on the ground to run things on your behalf. And that's having a proactive and a responsive property manager, cleaning team, pool company, gardener. And Tom was saying it's actually much easier if there is one person on the ground responsible for all of those things, for arranging all of those things, managing it. The second thing is that renovating a property always takes more time and costs more money than you think. So if you're living abroad and you have limited time at the property, then you really have to consider how you're going to renovate. Perhaps you shouldn't be buying a property that needs to be renovated greatly. You should go for something that's more finished. And Tom admitted that it did take them to the brink, the renovations they had to do, and especially the landscaping outside. It took them to the brink both emotionally and financially. And they have a lot of time in their school holidays to spend doing it. So be aware of the time and the cost involved in renovating when you live abroad. The third point was how you really know that your guests are happy. There are lots of things you can do in communicating with them to ensure that they are happy, but there is a literal distance between you and them, and it's more difficult to get first-hand reports on how they're enjoying themselves. So that's something you need to be aware of and make sure you work on that. And then the last point that is really important to Tom is about becoming part of the local community and immersing yourself in French culture and language. Again, you can do this when you're living abroad. You can still become part of the community, but again, it might take more effort. So just bear that in mind if this is what you're planning on doing. And Toumassou is a gîte in the perfect location for holidaymakers. It has stunning views, a heated pool, and the other USP I think it has is that it's affordable. So it has the combination of everything you really want from a holiday cottage, and yet it's affordable for a lot of people. And I think that's the reason why they have really good, healthy occupancy. So thank you, Tom, for sharing all your thoughts with us, and I hope you found it a really interesting episode. If you haven't met us before, we're Gîte Guru, Frank and me, Rupert. We run our own gîtes, Le Mas and Le Mazette, and when we left our careers in Amsterdam back in 2015 to run these gîtes full-time, they became our livelihood. We had to make the business work. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but through trial, error, and plenty of learning, we've built a 32-week season and a loyal base of 60% returning guests. We started Gîte Guru to share what we've learned and to help others succeed too. So if you're looking for free tips, insights, and inspiration, head to giteguru.com and subscribe to this Gîte podcast. For ongoing updates, behind-the-scenes posts, and relevant Gîte news, including tax changes and industry trends, follow us on Instagram at gite.com. And if you're after more personalized support, we offer tailor-made advice around your business, your gîte, its interiors, facilities, the services you offer, and the all-important communication and marketing. So telling the story of your gîte and making it visible to your target groups. If you're interested, get in touch for a free Zoom chat about your property, your plans, and how we could help you. And don't forget, follow us on Instagram at gite.guru. See you there.